Hi, I'm Mark from L&M Small Engine. Today we're working on a Gilson snowblower. It's an ST624, which means it has a 6 horsepower Tecumseh on it and a 24-inch cut. This is a pretty old snowblower, but actually it's in really good shape. It actually runs. I just wanted to check it out so it's ready for the snow season, and we'll just go check some things out, make sure it runs good for them. So hopefully you enjoy the video. Okay, we're gonna check the augers on it, and right over here it looks like they got a wood screw instead of a shear pin. You have to have shear pins on these because the shear pins are designed to break before you do any damage to the gears inside this case right here. And so we'll take that screw out and put our regular shear pin in there. It's like it's bent too. Try to straighten it out a little bit so I can screw it out. You definitely don't want to use that. That looks like a 1/4-inch hole. Here's what a shear pin looks like. They got cutaways on them. So like if you these get tangled up in, like, welcome mats outside your front door and stuff, that's a really big common problem. Toys and stuff, garden hoses, you name it, but these are supposed to break away so you don't ruin nothing in your gearbox. This one might be just a little bit too short. Let's see if we can catch it on something back here. Yeah, that wood screw kind of pulled it out on that side. So if I can get a better, just kind of push that shaft out a little bit. You don't want to use too long a shear pin either, because then the breakaway parts won't be by that center shaft that goes through there. Squeeze that together a little bit here. There we go. But yeah, definitely don't use stuff like that. And I see we got a Zerk right here for grease. So we're going to go and grease that box up real quick. I'm almost positive you can't get too many parts for these old Gilson snowblowers. Go ahead and put some nice grease in there. I'm going to wipe off the excess. Okay, we got that all done. Now let's check the skid plates. That side there looks pretty good. And this side, it's wore out. And I'm almost positive you can't buy skid plates for this. You could probably buy a universal set. That would probably work. But what I like doing on these, and it lasts a long, long time, I like welding a piece of metal on them. So before I take this off, I'm going to grab a shim and put it under the cutter. I just like to use like regular door frame shims. I'll just stick it under here under the cutter to where it's sitting at right now. So when we replace it, it'll be the same height. See how that's all wore through? So I like to go in my scrap iron pile. I just found this piece that's like 1 inch by 4. Put it in the vise and bent the front corner up. And we'll just weld it. You don't need to weld the whole thing, just tack it in a few spots, because you're going to have to end up replace it again anyway, and that's less weld you have to cut out. So we'll get the welder turned on and we'll put this piece on there, and that will be done. Yeah, on this side against the snowblower head, I got it indented just a little bit, so I'm just going to put a couple spot welds there, maybe one on the front and one on the back. That's all you really have to do. You don't need to weld the whole thing solid because eventually it's going to wear out and just be less grinding. Okay, we'll let that cool. I just tacked it a little bit on that side there, a little bit on the front, and a little bit on the back. And you got your new skid plate. That'll probably last way longer than the other one because it's twice as thick as metal. And I'm sure the snowblower is probably 30, 35 years old probably. So we'll let that cool and we'll put it back on. Okay, I'll let it cool. Like I said, just tack in a few spots. Don't need to be dramatic about it. And we got that wedge on there, so let's let that rest on the flat surface. And we'll go ahead and tighten her up. There, problem solved. Probably save yourself a bunch of money too if you could get them slider plates. And take our wedge out. Now that's done. Now we're gonna change the oil in it, put a new plug in it. That'll be our next step. Okay, now I'm gonna take this cover off and check the belts, make sure the belts are in still good shape. They're not cracked or getting wore out. So you don't want to belt to break when you're in the middle of plowing a snowbank or something. They actually look really good shape.
Real good shape.
Okay, make sure your ladder pulley spin, that spins really nice too. This thing's been well taken care of for how old it is. And I noticed there ain't no drain plug on the motor, so I'm probably just gonna vacuum the oil out of it. So I don't want to make a mess on this plate and have the risk of oil dripping down on the drive disc or something. So I'll probably just get my oil vacuum and suck it out through the dipstick. And that oil is really black too. Suck all that black oil out of there. Pretty sure we got all the oil out of there. Okay, you want to use 1030 oil on these. The 5 horses, they take like 16 ounces. This is a 6 horse, so we'll put 16 ounces in and check it, but it might take 20, but clean our dipstick off real good. It's right on full on 16 ounces. So half a quart on them. And I noticed under the fuel tank here, this little line here from the fuel shut off the tank, it's wet and like really soft. So I'm going to replace that little short little fuel line right there too, real quick before we go over to the carburetor side. Okay, now we're going to change the plug. We don't need to do nothing to the carburetor because it runs good. You drove it down the ramp to unload it. So one of the first times I don't have to tear the carburetor. Or the headlight bracket's kind of in my way. Instead of a ratchet, we'll have to use a wrench. Looks like we have a J17LM. So I'm gonna go find the plug here real quick. burning just a little bit on the rit side. Make sure it's gapped, like about 33 to 35 is the gap. Make sure that's nice and snug. Okay, and that's burning kind of rit. So on these older ones, there's that center screw and needle. We're just going to turn in this a little bit, and that'll stop it from that sooty look there. Okay, there's one more thing I want to check on this. When we're laying up on his top, I want to check the drive disc that runs the rear tires. That'll be our next thing, and should be pretty much done now. Okay, we got it sitting on the blower housing right now. I'm going to take this bottom plate off to check the drive disc. Oh, we got a mouse nest in here. Check out the chains. Drive disc looks like it's really good shape. The chain looks good. I'm gonna spray a little chain lube on the chain. Okay, it's actually good to go, so we'll get it back down. Okay, we'll go ahead and start her up. I know it runs because he drove it off the back of his truck down the ramp, so. Well, there you go. Hope you enjoyed the video. Appreciate you watching, and you have a good afternoon. Bye.